quiet corner of the zoo, a western lowland gorilla sits in thought, peeling and chewing its meal with deliberate calm. Every movement tells the story of strength and patience, a glimpse into one of our closest relatives. These gorillas, native to the dense rainforests of Central Africa, are the largest primates on Earth and spend much of their day foraging for fruit, leaves, and stems. But here, in captivity, their world is smaller, their routine simpler. What we see may appear peaceful. Yet behind these calm eyes lies a behavior scientists are still trying to understand. A behavior rarely, if ever, seen in the wild, but one that has become a quiet signal of captivity's hidden cost. What we're witnessing isn't hunger or sickness. It's something more complex. After finishing his meal, the gorilla calmly regurgitates the food, then eats it again. To an observer, it feels unsettling. To scientists, it's known as regurgitation and reingestion, a behavior found only in captivity, and never in the forests these great apes once called home. This act is not a sign of bad health, but of captivity itself. It's a mirror reflecting what happens when an animal built for freedom is confined within walls. When foraging, exploring, and feeding for hours each day are replaced by short, predictable routines. Scientists have studied this behavior for decades. It's called regurgitation and reingestion, or simply R/R. The food is brought back up from the stomach or esophagus, then chewed and swallowed again. It's not vomiting, and it doesn't cause nausea. Instead, it's a learned behavior, one that seems to appear only in captivity. In the wild, Western lowland gorillas spend most of their day searching for food, tearing bark, chewing fibrous plants, and traveling long distances through the forest. But in zoos, food arrives easily, in the same place, at the same time. With fewer chances to forage or explore, some gorillas may develop repetitive actions, behaviors that fill the empty spaces in their day. Researchers first began documenting this strange behavior in the 1980s. In 1985, Akers and Schildkraut published one of the earliest reports, describing how captive gorillas would regurgitate and re-ingest their food, often several times a day. Their surveys showed that more than half of all zoo-housed gorillas displayed this pattern. A year later, researchers Edwin Gould and Mimi Bres at the Smithsonian's National Zoo published one of the first detailed studies of this strange behavior. They followed 117 gorillas across 17 zoos, watching, recording, and searching for patterns that might explain why so many were regurgitating their food and eating it again. What they found was startling. Nearly 70% of gorillas in captivity displayed regurgitation and reingestion. Among adults, that number climbed to more than 80%. The behavior appeared in both wild-caught and zoo-born individuals, but those hand-reared or separated from their mothers as infants showed it most often. In mother-reared gorillas, it was rare. To test whether diet and feeding time played a role, Gould and Bres tried a simple experiment. They gave the gorillas fresh browse, branches of maple, beech, bamboo, and willow. The results were immediate. One female named Sylvia dropped from spending nearly half her day regurgitating to barely 10%. Another gorilla, Hercules, showed a similar decline. Feeding time nearly doubled, and the animals spent their afternoons calmly chewing and exploring the foliage instead of repeating the same motion. The conclusion was clear. The more time gorillas spent foraging and feeding naturally, the less they engaged in this abnormal behavior. In the wild, they feed for nearly half the day. In captivity, they were often finished in minutes. Providing browse, the researchers wrote, gave them a purpose again. Even so, Gould and Bres warned that enrichment alone could not erase what early life had written. Gorillas raised without mothers or deprived of social bonds might carry the habit for life. But their study offered something new, proof that small changes to diet and daily rhythm could restore pieces of a life once lost to confinement. By the early 2000s, zoos around the world began to rethink what captivity meant. Not just keeping animals alive, but helping them thrive. The work of Gould and Bres had shown that a handful of branches could change behavior. Now, researchers wanted to know how far enrichment could go. In 2006, Amanda Shine published a landmark meta-analysis in the journal Zoo Biology, reviewing more than 50 studies on enrichment in zoo mammals, from big cats to bears, elephants, and great apes. The results were remarkable. Over 90% of enrichment programs reduced abnormal behaviors, including regurgitation and reingestion in gorillas. The most effective interventions involved foraging puzzles, scatter feeding, and complex habitats that encouraged animals to work for their food, as they would in the wild. Following that, new behavioral research focused specifically on gorillas. Dr. Sonya Hill's studies at the University of Chester and Barcelona Zoo confirmed that regurgitation and reingestion was absent in wild gorillas, but common in captivity. She found that simple changes, like extending feeding times, removing overly soft foods such as milk, and promoting play through positive reinforcement, could dramatically reduce the behavior. Across Europe and North America, zoos began redesigning gorilla enclosures to encourage natural movement. Food was scattered, hidden, or suspended. Stems, bark, and branches were reintroduced into daily diets. Social play was encouraged, and training sessions built trust between keepers and apes. By 2022, large-scale surveys showed a turning point. In modern zoos that offered daily enrichment, less than half of gorillas displayed regurgitation or reingestion, a remarkable improvement from the 70% recorded decades earlier. The message was clear. When gorillas are given back the time, space, and challenge to be gorillas, their minds and bodies begin to heal.